to have a vision and believe in something, you're going to work hard at it. And when I had my vision to get in the music business, my whole motive was to work hard at it and be the best at it. So I treated it just like it was a football team. My background is athletes, for us being athletic, being on a football team. So I looked at it, well, it's going to be like a training camp. Having the artists, have the producers, have the writers, have everybody together, where they eat together and then they sleep together and they work together. And the chemistry gonna sound better because the album it's gonna be much fuller. Instead of somebody just talking about me, it's gonna be about a variety of different things going on. And for us with the Jimmy Iovine's and Ted Fields, yeah, true enough, it was a situation where their company was on the way out, and I had an idea for us. Death Row was gonna take over and not only blow up Death Row, but also blow up Interscope. And I just fell in that factor of the oldest game in the world. For us that I'm not a racist, and I don't look at it like that because where I grew up in Compton, we didn't have time for racism. You know, everybody was just middle class or poor. So it wasn't about rich and it wasn't about poor, it was just people. But as time goes on, people tell you it's serious racism when it comes to business. And, you know, by me being ghetto, I'm saying, no, you know, it's not like that. But in my case, it was like that. If with Jimmy Iovine, them looked at it and said, okay, Suge Knight got Death Row Records. He got the producer, he got these artists. I mean, for Dre as a producer, he was a producer, making 25 grand maybe a year at Ruthless. When I got him out of Ruthless to be on Death Row, he wasn't a rapper. I'm saying, okay, I can make you an artist because I was also his manager. So when Interscope seen the whole game unfold for us with Dre and Snoop, then Pac was the biggest star of all of them, and the Dog Pound and all these groups, they seen the vision, they wanted it. And you know, I wasn't, by me being a street guy, I wasn't gonna let nobody come up to me and say, I want your label, I want your groups, give it to me. Because I was the only black guy to own his masters, his catalog. And they weren't able to take it from me, but they was able to manipulate, to interfere with my contracts and get the talent. They was able to say, okay, Dre, we want you on Interscope and treat you better, give you more money. That would have been fine, but what they would do is they would give an artist money, but they would still charge it back to me. And I think one of the situations is that they was able to pull their scheme and their ideas off by me being in prison. Because there's two things that I always say, being from the ghetto, either they're gonna take the money from you, which you'll be an OJ, and if they can't take the money from you, they take you from the money. The only way they take you from the money is by you dying, deaf, or in prison. In my case, it's prison. So it's definitely a lot of situations that it's an eye-opener that people really got to learn from, not my mistakes, but the way I was treated. And then if you look at a person before you judge me, you got to look at it with the situation that was brought to me.
If you or your child spent years growing up on social media and experienced serious mental health struggles, you should hear this. Recently, a jury ordered Meta and YouTube to pay millions for their role in designing and promoting addictive platforms. They knew their apps could contribute to anxiety, depression, and body image issues, but did not share those risks while prioritizing profits. The recent historic verdict underscores the consequences of those decisions. Now Morgan & Morgan is stepping up to hold these platforms accountable for the harm they've caused. Click the link in my bio to take a short quiz. You may be entitled to potential recovery of up to $1,000.
I know you was asking me earlier when I got cut off about Interscope. Like I say, I don't have nothing negative to say about Interscope. At the same time, when Michael Fuchs from Time Warner offered me $80 million and then build me 2 state-of-the-art studios to leave Interscope and go strictly with Time Warner, I turned it down because I started with Jimmy and Ted. But if you ask, what have they done for me since I've been incarcerated, ain't nobody sent me a book of stamps, a pair of shoes. So I guess a lot of people don't understand the loyalty. I know they got a lot of, took some artists, took some of my producers, and I mean, before I was incarcerated, but it was in the process of it was already started up. And I know when, I don't have nothing negative about any member that's ever been on death row. Anything they got going on is good. I wish the best for them. I know when Dre came and had a conversation with me, he said, look, I want something more than anything, and possibly more than anything in the world. And I said, what's that? And he said he wanted to be white. I said, well, look, I ain't God. I can't make you white. I'm a manager and all the things. I mean, you can make enough money and you can act white and you can live white, but I can't make you white. And he said, well, Jimmy told me that he can put me on a level where I don't have to curse on my records and I can live that type of way. He said to Jimmy, and I was shocked. I was like, well, where all this come from? Being black, and all of a sudden you want to be white, I tell him the only way to be, white, you probably can never be, but if you can marry a white person and you can have, then your kids more likely to be more white instead of just black. And, I feel we friends because he take my advice because he done it. He married a white lady, he got, mixed kids, which is good. Anything is good for those guys to live their life and move forward. But before people understand about, it's a difference between having a hit record and being a superstar. A superstar, if you walk in a room, everybody want an autograph. You got some guys sell a lot of records, but they really not a star. And to have a powerful record company is the presence. You can have a guy that have a hit record out, and your record label don't have that presence, so when they come to the awards, it's no big deal. So Death Row is like the whole package. Put out a superstar, put out a hit record, and when they presence makes people say, hey, you want a few more front row seats? It's a big difference. And that's the difference. I think that the excitement that is lacking right now for the music business. But I'm quite sure things will be back to where it was and even better.
That's my last question. What's going to happen when you get out?
We're definitely going to take over the movie business, do real movies. Like you said before, people doing documentaries and they started Death Row, but you don't hear no Death Row music in there. If you own Death Row, you got something to do with Death Row. How could you talk about Death Row and don't have the music? Death Row, that's like having Motown, doing a thing on Motown and Berry Gordy, and don't have the Supreme singing, and don't have Smokey Robinson singing, because it goes hand in glove. So we definitely going to take on the movie business for doing great movies, and the artists. Death Row is an artist label. It's about the youth. It's about Jay Valentine, who's a teenager, who's an R&B singer who looks real nice, can compete and beat anybody out there. His brother, the PB, who's an R&B singer, and you got Crooked Eye, who's the best in the West Coast. You got Hutch as a producer. You got SKG's probably the best female rapper out there. You got all these things and these options where we're giving the real music back to the people because people want to pay for what they get. Anytime anybody away, it gives a person an opportunity to say things or do things. And I understand what people would like to say, what people like to do. And if it's Snoop, I wish him the best. And my interviews don't have to be about Snoop. Let Snoop live his life. If it's about Dre, I wish him the best. My interview don't have to be about him. Let him live his life. The Dog Pound, whoever. But I think as a man, anything you say once, you got to be able to say twice. I'm going to respect you if you can say it twice. If you're going to speak bad about somebody and you're going to put accusations on somebody, be able to sit down and look him in his eyes, right now, and say, yeah, I said that. I did that. And you know, and everybody else know that those things don't happen. There's a difference between being a man and being a male, between being a rider and being a coward. Not the same. If you take any artist that used to be on Death Row, they can't do not one interview besides talking about Death Row or me. You take somebody who didn't have anything to do with Death Row, but they want to try to do a documentary on Death Row for one thing, to make money. You get a guy on there, they say, who's doing a thing, The guy named Mike, everybody, David Kenner was his lawyer. He said this guy is a known rat, known informant. Him and his wife Lydia trying to tell on people just to get this guy out of prison. And I think that's sad that you got to do whatever you got to do. And then you get a guy that I heard speak on me saying, well, how much did he say he was? Death Row took from him?
Millions, man.
Okay, well, there's two things. If a guy take millions of dollars from you, right? And if it's true, even though it wasn't, but if it's true, if a guy take millions of dollars from you, either you're a punk or you're a snitch for telling on it, saying something about it. You can't have, it's either or. Either you snitching about something that you shouldn't be telling about if it's true, and if it's not true, and they took the money, you're a punk. So you have your choices. What you want to be, a rat? Or you want to be a punk? Or do you just want to just sit back as a man and deal with it? You know, if that was me and somebody did that situation to me, I would deal with it as a man. I wouldn't let nobody punk me, or I wouldn't be a snitch.
And do you feel like you saved Tupac's life the first time?
Yeah, definitely. When he was in prison, incarcerated, it was all bad for him. I mean, if you talk to anybody that know him, he was in a situation where he goes to prison. And you know the rumors, you know the situation, what all was there. Interscope, or anybody else, anybody of that matter, he had a manager before then, he had people before then. Not one person said, okay, I'm gonna go get Tupac out of prison. The time Tupac got his girl to call me and said he need me, I wasn't late. I'm on the next thing smoking to go down there to get him out of prison. So, and I don't regret that because, you know, that's Pac is another half of me, which is a little brother. So anything I could do to help him, it was great for both of us, not because of his talent as an artist. You got a lot of people that like Pac because he can rap. I like Pac because of Pac, because of who he was. And if you look at it, is everybody now, since he's not around, everybody claims that they was great friends. Everybody do a show. Some artists knew him, but like Pac and Snoop at the end hated each other. And you could tell that by the simple fact that when Snoop did Dogfather, Pac was not on that one song. And Pac didn't like Dre. That would change the Death Row camp because of the jealousy of Tupac. Because Tupac was now all of a sudden now, he's this major star, he getting all the light, he getting all the attention. So, you know, to me, you know, it was childish on their part, but they can never feel the shoes that Pac filled. I walk in the light that he walked in. If you live in a fast life, you come into prison, you know, regardless if you did something serious, if you did something minor. There's no way you can be off the block and hang out and don't come to penitentiary. Unless you know the guys on the streets that, unless they're informants or snitches, or, you know, they're more important to the authorities on the street than in prison. But if you're a guy that really hangs out, really from the neighborhood, sooner or later you're gonna get crossed up. When they was a part of Death Row and they had a problem, it was a Suge Knight Death Row problem. If I was with whoever, if somebody was gonna do something to Dre or do something to Snoop, they know they would have to go past me to get it done. And I wouldn't allow it because Death Row was a Death Row family. And those situations, a lot of those actions of me being loyal to the people I'm around got me in trouble. But I didn't cry about it, I didn't complain about it. And the minute I came to prison, everybody went like this, right? It's like, okay, he's gone, we can do what we want to do. And you know, you look at those situations and just like with Snoop's case. I don't have nothing against none of those guys, but if you look at it, this guy was finna go to jail for 25 years of life for murder. I didn't go and say, I wasn't late. I wasn't late to put up almost $5 million for attorney's fees. I wasn't late to have, where they were scared to go to court, to have 50, 60 guys escort them in the court building before they wouldn't get beat up. Only thing I did was help the guy. If they feel bad, if I did something wrong for that, okay, I'm guilty of that. That's a simple fact where if Dre was to go to jail, I was with him when he beat up D. Beat up a girl, and 10 guys want to beat him up for beating up a woman. I'm saying, hold up. Can't nobody touch me with me. And if I'm wrong for that, okay, I'm wrong. But I look at it like if I'm with you, I'm with you. There's no such thing as in between. Either you with me or against me. If we're on the same team, I'm going to do what I can to do to always help you.
And you've done so much too. With the Mother's Day, you do the Mother's Day
I
stuff.
do, every year I do. When I was on the streets, I did, and I did it 1 year after I was incarcerated. I would do a Mother's Day dinner for all the single mothers at the Beverly Hills Ritz Hotel. The reason I would do that for the mothers to bring their kids and know somebody care about them. And I really do it for the kids because if a mother's on Mother's Day, if they don't got nobody to give them no roses and buy no gifts, they sort of grouchy. They might be more grouchy towards the kids for it's like, you look like your daddy ain't no good. And so I would give them nice stem roses and baskets, and a great dinner, and we would have performances from Jodeci to Ron Isley to all the artists to Tupac, and everybody would intervene and get out there and sit down and not just sign autographs, but actually give them hugs and take pictures. Anything that's positive for the kids, that's what I'm all about. That's like for his prison. Everybody glorify prison and say, when you come to prison, you get to work out with the weights and you get to do this and you get to do all these great things for us, hang with your homies. Then they took the weights, but you still can work out. But at the same time, they don't get a whole scenario of it where 1 year can turn to 3 years, 3 years can turn to life. A lot of guys come to prison, they woman run off and leave them. A lot of guys come to prison, people in their family pass and you can't attend the funeral. A lot of guys might get a tattoo and get AIDS. And it's a certain thing that is sad that the kids really got to snap out of it. Kids got to really wake up and say, prison ain't for me. I want to do something better than come to prison. If you can't have faith in God on Friday and be stressing on Saturday, you got the same God. But I think most of all is how you grew up. I was fortunate and blessed to have my father, which my father's still around. And one thing about it, I had like 10 uncles and my father, so you got to be a man. You start off as a young man, then you can become a man. And, for us that whining and making excuses and complaining, that ain't going to do no good. And telling is definitely something you don't do. You outside playing with your friends, and they might be older, and you run and say, hey, I'm 7 years old, and they 14, and they took my ball. First thing my pops would say, look, boy, don't be no telltale. Get your butt back out there and get your ball back. And I think that guidance that father figure is very, very important. Because if you look at a lot of people who do a lot of telling and a lot of crying and be snitches and stuff, they didn't have that father presence around.
When you was a kid, not snitching on somebody that would get you in trouble?
No, snitching on somebody would get you in trouble.
Right, but not snitching on somebody that would get you in trouble at home.
What, not snitching?
Like, did you ever have to take the fall for somebody?
I mean, naturally, if if your sister or something do something or whatever, and they might tell on you, you suck it up, come get this whooping. When I was young, I got whoopings. I think, but I deserved those whoopings. I didn't get whoopings, I got ass whoopings. I was a boy, I was all boy. I wasn't feminine, so I was all boy. So by me being all boy, I broke windows, I did stuff to cars, and and my people weren't rich. So when I broke a window, and that means an extra $100 for that month that they depended on that money for something, I got an ass whooping. I think my whoopings was so tough. If like today, kids can call child services on them, right? If I'd have called the child services on my people, they'd still be in jail doing time. But I deserve every one of the whoopings. But back to for his prison, it's like one of the saddest things. I wouldn't say it's real sad, but it's true. It's like no matter what prison I go to, I'm gonna have a gang of homeboys there. And if I go to college, I might know one person from my neighborhood. But and the thing about it is, the worse the prison is, the better it is for me. On the simple fact that lifers and guys got a gang of time, those are the majority of my homeboys. And the system is what it is. You get guys in the system that for murder do 3 or 4 years. Child molesters is the worst. These guys who affect kids for the rest of their life, these guys do 2 or 3 years.